Hi, everyone. I wanted to take some time with you before we meet for our Professional Development Day on January 4th to talk a little bit about what we're going to be spending one portion of our day doing together. And we're going to be talking about power standards. I'll tell you down the line, this phrase may become essential standards or some other phrase I can't even create right now. But as for now, we as an ELA department are going to use the phrase power standards to discuss them. On January 4th, we're going to have an opportunity to begin narrowing down our standards to and deciding power standards. So January 4th is really important for you to share your voice and really have input in what these power standards are going to be. And so my intention with this is to give you kind of a heads up because that hour is going to be packed. We're going to do an activity to get our state to begin this process and this thinking, and I'd like you to have some background knowledge before we get there. So taking a look, this quote I really feel explains what we all already know, is that we have too many standards to teach. And I think it's Marzano who says that if we taught all of our standards to mastery, the students would have to be in school for like 22 years or something. And so I think that this quote kind of embodies that idea by explaining that there are too many to learn in a school year. And so they call them essential standards, Kramer does in this quote, but it says essential standards do not represent all that teachers teach. They represent the minimum a student must learn to reach high levels of learning. And I think while we go through this work and when we move forward in the years to come with these power standards or essential standards that we are focused on, that we remember this piece, that it's not that we throw all the other ones out with the bathwater. It's that these are the representation of what you might call the non-negotiables, what we are agreeing as a department to work towards. And it's bringing us together and not creating a list that we just check off. Yeah, I taught that. It really is bringing us together to focus and focus on what we as a department and a district believe is important in our standards. And when I met with the department chairs and team leads a while ago, I asked them to dream big. And a couple of things that really stood out were vertical alignment, focusing on what's best, and common language. And I think that because of the way our standards are written, this is a beautiful way and a great way to come up with that vertical alignment. It would be so amazing for our students to come to us and we know what standards they got before us, and we can and really count on that they're ready for that standard yet at our grade level, right? At the grade level that they're coming into. And it's also going to let us kind of be able to maybe intervene and provide interventions in a different way than we have before for our students, and hopefully move them forward no matter what. So let's keep going. I want to show you this slide. These 5 foundational literacy standards are listed at the front of one of the state documents. And what I think is interesting is that it talks about being able to read and listen, or just that literacy in all disciplines, and that they want diverse perspectives, they want problem solvers, right? And being able to create their own text and to self-regulate, which I think is an interesting concept within the reading world. I always think of self-regulation as like behavior, sit down, stay still. And in this case, it's, can I self-regulate, monitor my own learning within the literacy realm? And so those are 5 foundational standards that the state has put forth. And I think it really fits within the framework or what we're hearing from business worlds and other careers about what they need their employees to be able to do. So it's kind of neat that it all is fitting together. And again, it gives us a bigger picture, because we know that not all of our students are going to become English teachers or language arts teachers. So I know that you all are pretty familiar with the way our standards function, but if you've never looked at a vertical alignment of our standards, it is actually pretty fascinating. It is you can find it on the KSD website, but you can actually, I believe, find it on our own website as well. But what happens is it's the label, we're all familiar with the labels, but the standard in kindergarten, standard RIK1, is the same standard at 7th grade, at 3rd grade, at 11th grade, at 12th grade. It just becomes progressively more complex. And if you read it that way, it is an amazing thing to see the true thought in the vertical alignment and the step by step that we could take our kids through. So I think it's a pretty powerful activity or time to take to even just look at one standard K-12 and kind of get an idea for it, or even looking at it, pulling that document when you are getting ready to plan a unit and you're looking at those standards, you can see, because I think it can actually help us provide some interventions or some scaffolds and make some differentiated tasks for our students based on the way where we think they land on the standard itself. So with that said, I'm going to kind of cruise through. You're going to see these slides again in January, but there are going to be 3 things we're going to ask ourselves when we are really trying to decide if a standard is a power standard. The first question is, does the standard have endurance? Okay. Are students expected to retain the knowledge and skill beyond the unit and course? And it focuses in on those essential standards, right? It's going to bring us together. Question number 2, does the standard have leverage? In other words, will the student be able to apply the standard in more than one subject area? Okay. And question number 3 that we need to ask ourselves is, does the standard prepare students for success at the next level? So has the standard been identified as an essential prerequisite skill in the next course or grade level? Okay. So those are the 3 questions we're going to be grappling with as we look at our standards in January, but I thought I might throw them out there for you so that maybe you could be taking a look at your standards and really be thinking through a different lens about them. Now, we're also going to, because if you remember, we go back to that quote that essential or power standards are not necessarily the only thing we teach, right? So we're hopefully, this is where our hour is going to be busy. We're going to break our standards down into categories. So we'll have the power standards, and in order to determine those, we're going to use those 3 questions to guide us. Supporting standards interact and support the power standards. I like this phrase, they may not have the lead, but still stand on the stage, right? So there are power standards, and then we've got these standards that support those. In other words, you almost can't get to the power standard without the supporting standard. And then fill-in standards are our lowest priority. Again, it doesn't mean we're not teaching them, but maybe we're not really focused on getting people to mastery with these fill-in standards, because they can be successful in life and really school without mastering them, okay? One final thing I might ask your PLC to do at the end of this is to reflect. What standards are you currently focused on? And just kind of think about that and talk together. Maybe if you have time, talk together as a vertical team too, but I know time is precious and hard to come by, especially at this time of year. So it's not a mandatory task, just a thought. And then what standards do you assess? When you are doing assessment, which ones do you pick to actually see if students have mastered? And just a little caveat or kind of a side note, think of assessment not just as a test or a quiz, but are there assignments that you give or projects that you assign that you are looking for a particular mastery of a standard? So that's how I'd like you to look at that. I really thank you and appreciate you all for everything you have done this year. I know this is a crazy time of year. I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a wonderful break as we come up on that. And I can't wait to see everyone in January. Talk to you soon.